Hi guys, ArchieLuxury talking watches. And today I wanted to, before I start, like, subscribe, tell your friends, like and subscribe. And don't forget, look in the description for 10 ways you can help me on YouTube. It includes Patreon sponsorship. Send a small amount each month to keep me employed. I've got a for sale section. I've just updated my for sale section. Come on guys, work with me, not against me. Today's question is, could the wristwatch market collapse? Disappear? Very interesting question. Can the collectible wristwatch market, could the collectible wristwatch market collapse, disappear, vanish off the face of the earth? Very interesting question. Very interesting. And, you know, we find it very hard to have a crystal ball and know the answer. This is a very scary scenario because we as watch collectors, we always bank on watches being, you know, we love our hobby. I mean, let's face it, if the big makers stopped making watches, pumping millions into advertising and activities, it would really kill the mojo. Now, the question is, could the market collapse? Could it evaporate? And the answer is, of course it can. I mean, let's be completely honest. I mean, smartphones. Everyone carries a smartphone. This thing here is killing the wristwatch market. It's killing the camera market. It's killing so many markets there. These things here are more powerful than a PC. These are much more powerful than a PC from the 90s. And it's a very scary thing, and it's progress. Could the wristwatch market evaporate, disappear? Yes, it can. Yes, it can. It can disappear. Look, one of the things that has astounded me is the fact that antique furniture, that market has really collapsed. Yes, it's true. Quality antique pieces still are not free. But if you look at the buy and sell of that market, so popular in the 80s and 90s, it's not there anymore like it once was. I know an antique dealer who, well, he was an auctioneer who bought and sold a bit of antiques. That was kind of his hobby. And he's bought expensive antiques in London auctions, brought them to Australia, expensive, and he's selling them now less, half of what he paid in London. So you factor in the shipping costs, the holding costs for 20 years, and not a good proposition at all. So many collectibles that were hot have really gone really soft. The fine china market, Royal Albert, Royal Doulton, you know the brands, Wedgwood, all those really expensive pieces are no longer really wanted or lusted after in today's society. Your grandmother may have wanted a beautiful dinner set. People today, they're not craving it as much. In fact, I bought a Royal Albert Country Roses set, made in England. I bought this 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, for $650. I thought this is safe, good buying. I listed it for sale on a few websites. Not even an offer. Not even an offer, because the consumer who really love that thing, they're dying. Those elderly people, they're no longer, they're dying. So their children don't have that interest in that quality type of thing. So can this whole market collapse? Can it collapse? And that they will still have some value, but it's proving very hard to shift. Very, very hard to shift. Could wristwatches go the same way? And the answer is, of course. Of course it can. Yes, it really can go the same way. There is nothing... Wristwatches aren't some sacred cow. They could tank. They can tank. I mean, let's have a look at it. What happens with wristwatches is we've got people who, in their prime... Who is the prime consumer? And the answer is, it's people, it's men. Wristwatches are for men in the age group 35 to 55. Because, let's be completely honest, before your 30s, you're too busy partying, going out, you're not really saving for a wristwatch. Then you get to your 30s and you get married, you graduate from university, you're paying back your student loans, you're frantically then trying to establish your career, you're buying a new automobile, you are having babies, and paying mortgages and starting to pay private school fees. Very fun. This is very fun life we live in. So it's only when once we start to get a hold of all these expenses, then we can start collecting and buying something we love. So a lot of men folk don't really get into watches until their mid to late 30s. Then they're starting to think, well, what can I have? They're no longer starry-eyed for Panami. No longer starry-eyed for Panami, thinking, I'd really like a nice watch. And they remember, these are men in their 40s now who, this is pre-internet, pre-smartphone, they remember watches, the Bond movies. They remember, cool things. They remember American Psycho, that novel Bret Easton Ellis wrote. They remember these things and think, I'd like a good watch. And this is what happens. So they're kind of in their peak. So the thing is, the generations, when they were young and peppy, this was the pre-internet, pre-smartphone days. Wristwatches had some value. The children coming through now, what's the answer there? And society changes. Let's look at it. I mean, I remember a friend of mine had an Asprey cigarette case. And you think, wow, he's got class. He's got an Asprey cigarette case. Now, the cigarettes have changed in size. And smoking is not really what it used to be. I mean, you look at the Peter Stuyvesant commercial, your international passport to smoking pleasure. Yes, it's not in, you understand? You may have smoked in your early 20s, but you gave up that weed very quickly. So society's needs have changed. Wristwatches are similar too. Wristwatches, you look at wristwatches from the 30s and 40s, very small. Even up until the 80s there, they were very, very small critters. And the reality is, the children who are coming in now to watches may not. The kids who are growing up, internet, smartphones, do they really desire a watch? They want an Apple Watch. Do they want a mechanical watch? And that's the thing. Within a generation or two or three, they can be completely out of fashion. It's a bit like pocket watches. Pocket watches, every gentleman needed a pocket watch. Well, World War I, then it changed to wristwatches. That's right, before World War I, only pansies, dandies would wear a wristwatch. It was unmanly. So wristwatches are the result of World War I, being in the trenches. You're carrying a rifle and a fucking shovel. You can just look at your wrist and see the time. Necessity. So pocket watches now, nowhere near as collectible as wristwatches. So can these things die? Can they die? You bet your goddamn ass they can die. All of these things can die. People aren't buying the same things they were before. Consumer habits change, buying patterns, the whole psyche changes. It's like with classic cars, automobiles. The ones that are popular now are the ones that 40 to 50-year-old men lusted after in their younger days. That's kind of, you know, you're talking 80s classics. 80s classics. You're not talking 50s classics. See, back in the 80s, those men, 40 to 50, who could afford a car from the past, they wanted cars from 20 to 30 years before. Jaguar, XK120, XK150, E-Type, those sort of things. Now, that's not to say they're not still valuable, but the number of people lusting after them is changing. The market is changing because people lust after things they really lusted after when they were a kid or a teenager. So can wristwatches disappear? Could it disappear? Well, in 2 or 3 generations, they could become a relic. And if the Japanese and the quartz revolution didn't kill off the Swiss industry, maybe generational change will. That's right. Look at how quickly typewriter companies went out of business. Olivetti, they adapted into computers but didn't quite get the mix right, gone. Adler, you've got other many great typewriter companies who, IBM, famous for their heavy duty office equipment. You were really a successful business. You had an IBM golf ball typewriter. They were expensive piece of kit. They were expensive. And this is the whole thing. Will wristwatches disappear? Hard to tell, hard to tell. But in 2 or 3 generations, it could be all over Red Rover. Could be all over Red Rover in 50 years' time. Obviously, we may not need to worry about it. Someone like me, 50 years, I may be alive if I change my diet, exercise. Who knows? Can watches die? Of course they can. It's like so many collectible antiques. So many things today have been readjusted. I used to collect Hornby vintage tin trains, clockwork trains, O-gauge. The kids of today don't remember that stuff. Sorry, the 30-year-olds of today didn't have that stuff. That's my parents' era. So the collectability and desirability is, sure, they are still a very lovely, beautiful thing, but you've got to have a market of people who lust after these things to push the collectible market up. Could watches die? Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. But buy good things, buy nice things, you'll get enjoyment out of it. I'm Paul Pluter. This is the ArchieLuxury channel. You tell me if wristwatches could vanish.